It's my friends. Well, it's great to see you this morning. I'm so delighted to be spending a few minutes with you on this beautiful Thursday morning. All right, it's cold, but it is beautiful. I don't know what your sleep schedule is, but if you're getting up before dawn right now and haven't had a chance to look at the eastern sky, it's worth getting up even for 10 minutes to have a look at it, especially tomorrow morning. If it's a clear morning tomorrow, you will see rising out of the east before the sun comes up, Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, and then a crescent moon. And it is beautiful. I saw it this morning. It's worth your time. And if you want to do a quick little study about astronomy, you can go online and even look at some of the information about how the planets line up. And it might be something fun to do as a bit of science while you are educating at home. One of the things that occurred to me as I stood and looked at it this morning outside my back door is that those planets and that moon and the stars and the sun have been rotating around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, more than we can even imagine. And that people, ever since people were able to just look up and think and consider, have wondered about the stars and wondered about the moon and wondered about the sun. And yet they are a constant for us. And it was a reminder to me that in the midst of our chaos right now, there are some things that are predictable, and that we need to find predictable rhythms to help us negotiate and navigate these chaotic waters that we find ourselves in. So I encourage you to get up tomorrow and watch those. I want to kind of move on to something today, and it starts with this concept that we've talked about in the Bellevuve schools before, and it's this one. Everybody has a story. And the everybody has a story concept is this. When we get into challenging situations, when we see people acting in ways that don't make sense to us, we as human beings have a tendency to evaluate that difference between ourselves and other people in two ways. We evaluate it morally. In other words, we'll look at a person who's acting in a way that's different than us, and we'll have a tendency to look at them and think that there is something wrong with them that's not wrong with me. So if you see, like, all right, here's one for me. If I see a person litter, which is a real bother to me, like sometimes I even pick up other people's litter just because, like, why not? I mean, let's make the place look nicer. But if I watch somebody walk by and drop a candy wrapper or throw their McDonald's bag out of their car or whatever, I instantly go to a place of moral judgment, and I tell myself a story about who that person is and about why they just did what they did. And it always ends up being this. I have a certain moral superiority to them in terms of how they are dealing with the issue of litter. And then I'll paint it as a bigger picture. And I will actually evaluate their whole human character based on a single moment that violates my sense of right and wrong. Now, this is pretty complex stuff, and the things we're going to talk about today are really for the older kids and for the parents. But for the older kids and the parents, this will apply to how you view the younger kids and how you deal with them. So one of the things that this concept of everyone has a story does is it helps us to ask better questions about the behaviors and things that we see that bother us. But we don't often apply that kind of a concept within our own families. And right now, there's a lot going on in families where you guys, like, aren't you sick of each other? Aren't you getting on each other's nerves? Aren't you tired of the little things that your children do, that your parents do, that your siblings do, that just kind of annoy you? But I want to encourage you, as we're going into the second month of our quarantine, to begin to step back and adopt this everyone has a story mindset. And I'm going to give you a specific one of those, a specific part of that mindset that is a little crass, I'll be honest, but it really, to me, has been one of the most important things that I've adopted in my own mind in dealing with other people. And it has to do with motivation. Because everyone has a story. We don't exactly know what leads to that story. Now, within your own home, you might think, oh, we all have the same story, but you don't. Parents, you weren't raised in the same home in which you are raising your kids. Each of your children, if you have multiple children, have a different story based on how they were born, their particular character and bent, the ways that you've raised them versus the way you've raised other siblings. For sure, everyone has a story, and it's a little bit different even within a family. And when people begin to annoy us or do things that just kind of continually bother us, we often, as a part of our moral judgment, will go to a place of motivation. We'll actually assign motivation, and we will think to ourselves, they are doing this just to bother me. Oh, wait, you've maybe never thought that about your spouse or about your children, about your parents. You've never thought that about your siblings. They're just doing this to bother me. And we actually assign a motivation to people's behavior. This is the thing I would like you to kind of think about today. And I'm going to say it and then try to explain it. This may come as a surprise to you. It comes as a surprise to me when I really think about it. Nobody wants to suck. Now, I just want you to sit on that for a moment and let's talk about it. Sometimes when people do things that bother us, we will kind of, and this is where it gets a little crass, okay? This isn't for the younger children. They shouldn't be using language like this. But it's the only word I can come up with that actually matches what happens inside of me and what I see happening with people. People do stuff and we just look at them and say, they suck. Like, he sucks. Like, why would you do that? Why would you even think that? And he's just doing it to bother me. He's just doing it to annoy me. We assign motivation. This is what I want to encourage you with today. Even people who annoy you did not get up this morning and think to themselves, how can I suck today? I just want to suck. I want to be the worst version of myself I possibly can be. I want to get up and I want to do everything I can to be the most horrible person that I can possibly be. This is true, and you know it's true because it's true for you. You aren't getting up every morning and thinking, how can I be a terrible parent? How can I be a horrible child? How can I be a terrible daughter? How can I annoy all of my siblings? What can I do to make myself the least important person in the family, the most annoying and awful person? Nobody gets up and wants to suck, to be annoying. And yet, we annoy each other. And yet, some days we get up and we kind of suck. Like, we don't necessarily behave in ways that are the best or the most appropriate or the most helpful to the other people in our family. So first, here's the practical. First, remind yourself when you get up in the morning, you're not getting up to try and make things bad. You're not trying to be the worst parent or the worst child or the worst teenager or the worst sibling, the worst sister, the worst brother. You're not doing that. And neither is anyone else in your family. Everyone in the family is waking up actually wanting to be the best version of themselves that they can be at the core of who they are. Now, it's true, we do get into some patterns where all of a sudden it's kind of like, you know what? If this is how people are going to treat me, I'm going to start acting that way. But even then, we're basically saying, I'm not going to suck at sucking. I'm going to be the best version of what people are expecting of me that I can be. And that's a little complex, but track with it. Look at the motivation of your kids. Look at the motivation of your siblings, of your parents, and realize they're not trying to be the worst version of themselves. So the first thing is assess their motivation. The second is look at people and understand that they have a story for why they're acting, and do what you can not to participate in escalating the judgment and the frustration and the anxiety. I don't know what that looks like in your family. In some families, that means just being honest and saying what you need to say. In some families, it means shutting down the emotions for a period of time until you can talk about it later. But this is what's important. Nobody wants to suck. Everybody wants to get up and make it through this in the most positive way that they can possibly be. Parents especially want to encourage you, and especially older siblings and parents with the younger children. No preschooler is motivated by a desire to annoy people. What they're motivated by is a desire to be accepted and to be loved and to get attention. And so if they're getting attention in a way that is edifying and builds them up, then they don't necessarily need to exhibit the behaviors that drive you crazy. Be aware of this, okay? Everyone has a story, even a 4-year-old, and it's informing the way that they act. Nobody gets up and hopes that their day is terrible and wants to suck. Everybody wants to have a good day. Let's work together as a family to understand that about each other, to build each other up. And if I can say it, to work really hard on not being an annoyance to everybody in our family. It'll make this whole thing a little bit better. It'll make it a lot more fun, and you'll come out of it stronger, which is our ultimate goal. Hey, thanks for your time today. In the next couple days, I'm going to have a couple more interviews with people from or associated with Bellevuve. We'd be looking forward to that. And I hope you have a wonderful Thursday. Don't forget, get up in the morning and watch those planets. It's a beautiful thing. Have a great day.